All right, we've got an update for cameras. A filming attempt last time. It did work, but about 80%. And it did save our asses, actually. Luckily, we did get video of last podcast, and it was lucky because Lissa decided that she didn't want the microphone too close to her face, and the audio was not great for her. So we actually...
The person who checks the audio, aka Dominic, didn't tell me to do anything with the microphone. Yeah, that sounds like my fault.
It is. So, anyway, as I was saying, the audio from the video was actually used for last podcast, so it was great to have that. But there was just some hiccups, right? The VHS camcorder didn't work very well, so we're using Kodak disposable cameras now to see if that works better. We'll see how it goes.
Those don't record, so we're screwed.
Oh, fuck. So hopefully this could be the first podcast that we put out with video. If it is, I will include the link in the description.
Wait, you've been doing these and none of these are out?
Not with video.
You were just putting them out anyway.
There's no video to put out with them.
So there's no context to the conversations we've been having.
I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean?
When we've been saying camcorder and potato and stuff, they can't see what we're talking about. I thought they could the whole time, so I thought you were sharing these videos. So they can't. So they just hear us talking.
These videos, it's only been one, so not these videos. It's one video. That's it.
Just then under the wrong impression.
That's okay. But yeah, I didn't release any video last time from last podcast because why bother? It was subpar, so it doesn't really matter. All right. Are you ready to talk more about kicking?
Sure.
I'm not going to talk more about kicking. We did that for 2 podcasts in a row. I was joking. Okay. Last podcast, we were joking how we were just only going to talk about kicking. Well, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that.
I don't want to talk about books again. So what are we talking about then?
I want to talk about rotation, actually. Okay.
In freestyle.
Rotation and freestyle. Good point. I was talking to my first client this morning, my only client this morning, because I got stood up.
You didn't have it stood up. She got sick and reached out and told you that she got sick. That's not being stood up.
That's still, I mean, it's the same difference.
No, someone getting sick and telling you is way different than someone just not showing up and you know it.
I only had one client.
I feel
because I didn't have another client. All right. So we were talking a little bit about rotation. And so we just kind of thought this is probably a good topic to talk about. Maybe how to rotate, maybe what's rotating, how much rotation. I did put a poll out on Instagram this morning to see if people rotate 45 degrees or 90 degrees, or if they even know that they're supposed to rotate. And last time I checked, I'm supposed to rotate was winning by a lot. So
we never know that.
No, they don't know that. There was a question mark. I'm supposed to rotate?
Oh, I'm very confused about you today. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm like 100 miles an hour, I guess. I don't know what's going on. So maybe we'll get on the same page. Maybe we won't. We'll find out. So yes, we are supposed to rotate. That's the answer to that. How much we're supposed to rotate? I would say the ideal is 45, but everyone is different.
Where would you say you came up with that?
45 degrees of rotation? I didn't come up with that.
Where did you find that?
There are scientific papers out there that do some analysis of swimming. They are not always great.
Okay.
But basically, I think it was at the top of my head, if I could remember, was Dr. Rushnell's 2010 paper on like microcycles or something like that. And so he talks about technique within microcycles.
In terms of swimming? Okay.
Microcycles for training. And then within that microcycle of training, what, sort of like technique approaches should be introduced. Time. That's it. So
I clearly didn't know.
he talks.
No one's actually ever told me the amount of rotation.
I have absolutely told you.
Outside of you.
So
Like a coach on deck, always referring to when I swam and competed.
yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, no one's.
That would make sense. That either they don't even think to talk about it, or it's not something that they would want to talk about. I think part of it for me is because I've coached so many triathletes for so many years.
Yeah.
So many people have found total immersion, and total immersion talks about swimming and rotating to 90 degrees, which is a lot of rotation. I mean, the problem with it is that it does slow your cadence down because cadence is determined by your hip rotation, not by your arms, because your arms obviously move faster than your hips. So if you are moving your arms faster than your hips, you're not doing yourself a service, right? So cadence is determined by rotation. So if I'm rotating 90 degrees, that's a long way to travel, basically. So it takes longer to take a stroke that way.
Right.
If I'm completely sideways, my balance is much more challenging as well.
Side plank.
And this is why we do drill work to 90 degrees so that we can meet the challenge, right? We can learn how to build some strength there, some coordination, and that control and strength that we gain from that doesn't mean that's where we should be swimming. It's an exaggeration drill. I would say most drills are exaggerations, right? So,
I'm like still thinking like this thought never even entered my brain to ask.
how much should I
How much
rotate?
should I rotate?
You've never been asked that in a lesson? I was asked this morning, and I'm asked at least once or twice a week.
That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with my client. They're also
Just not inquisitive.
no, they're very inquisitive. They're just of the brain that I'm referring back to when I
Yeah.
10 to 18.
Yeah.
Like that was never a thought that even would have entered my brain.
And you've coached triathletes, though. It's not like you only coach kids.
No, I know. I'm literally just saying like I find it interesting that I never thought there even was a correct amount.
So
I never thought to even have my brain go there. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I did so much other technique work. I was never gonna go, well, how much am I supposed to rotate?
it's hard to say there's any correct anything in swimming,
Yeah.
right? But at 45 degrees of rotation, that allows for your shoulders to exit the water so that you can recover more easily, obviously. And then it also is, everyone's different. So hold on, hold your horses here. At 45 degrees, that should be enough rotation for you to take a breath without straining your neck. However,
45 degrees of hip rotation, right? Yeah.
However, as people age, they lose mobility. Sometimes necks get really stiff. And sometimes, because of just how somebody's body is, they might have to rotate more to get that breath.
Without hurting their neck, you mean?
Right, without hurting their neck or lifting their head up. Ideally, we not. I'd rather someone rotate more than pick their head up to breathe. You know what I mean? So, even though 45 is what is the best probably for freestyle, it can be more if needed. But ideally, we don't want to add more to it. And conversely,
you get more of an inefficient movement. It's going to cause more work being done on your muscles. Right?
Yeah, all those other reasons that we listed why we don't need to go to 90 degrees.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but not necessarily optimal. Maybe optimal for that individual. And kind of interestingly, backstroke, which is a similar stroke to freestyle, only requires 35 to 40 degrees of rotation.
Hip rotation.
Yeah, because you don't have to turn your head to breathe.
Is that the only?
That's basically the only reason.
Is that in that article too?
It's not an article; it's a scientific paper. Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting. Why did you read that?
Well, I've read it several times, and I don't remember the first time I read it, but I remember a long time ago, about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, we used to do a book club every Wednesday at SwimBox. And that book club, we would find articles or books or scientific papers to read independently, come together, and discuss those concepts. And so it was one of the things that we read in that.
But you don't remember where you first found it or why you went about looking for it?
Uh, I don't. No, I've been doing this a long time, so that's the first.
Just interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's the like first I can tell you that. Yeah, it's probably about the first time that I remember off the top of my head seeing something that was more definitive. And like just like I said, nothing's ever 100% in swimming. So, you know, I say definitive, it's not really, but we're aiming for 45.
Right. I just want to, like, it's just interesting that it is based off of something that is based in science.
I mean, I try to
Just
do
like
all
some
the
kid
should be fine.
D forever ago who decided to say this in 1981 and everyone just stuck with it.
Right.
That happens.
All done.
Yeah.
More than people know.
Happens.
I would say that's most of swim coaches, right? I was told this when I was 10, so I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep telling it. I'm gonna keep sharing this bad knowledge.
They just don't know it's bad knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't swim the same way that I did when I was swimming in college or what
At all.
So I think it's important to keep that in mind that there is change and change happens. And I would say that that paper by Dr. Raffnell actually inspired a lot of the contrast that I built into freestyle with contrasting front quadrant freestyle, because he was referring to a front quadrant freestyle in that paper, even though he in that paper mentioned that front quadrant freestyle isn't the most efficient way to swim freestyle.
That's confusing.
Well, right. They didn't have great understanding when that paper was made about different things, physics wise and anatomy wise. Right. And so it's kind of just a limited thought. That's all. Science changes. Science is never the same, right? So, anyway, rotation. About a year ago, I put a post on the Try Swim Coach Facebook page, and I did a poll to see what people thought was the cause of rotation.
Okay.
And it was all over the board. I mean, people were all over.
Was there an average?
I think most people said hips.
Well, then good job, everybody.
So you think because your hips are rotating, it's your hips that cause the rotation.
What? You told me earlier that we're talking about hip rotation.
Well, hip rotation happens, but that doesn't mean that we rotate from our hips. Does that make sense? What causes rotation?
Oh, you're going to tell me my shoulder blades going up and down?
I would say that's majority of it, yes.
Okay.
You nailed it. Good job. Do you want to explain that?
Do I want to explain your answer? No.
You answered. I just kind of led you.
I know that. No, because I'm not in the right frame of mind to explain that like very articulatively. Like if you stand and your shoulders are stacked over your hips and you put your arms up over your head and your shoulder blades and your traps are down, if you lift one at the same time that you push the other one down, you will rotate in your upper torso.
And if you were in a swivel chair, you would rotate actually in a swivel chair.
Yeah, I was just chilling. Stopping my hips because I was sitting.
Yeah, that's what I said though. Yeah, you're absolutely right though.
Yeah.
So I would say it comes from more than one place. Nothing's 100% right. So it's like most of it's coming from shoulder blades being opposite of each other. So that's a really important thing to think about, because in a front quadrant freestyle, shoulder blades get lined up in weird spots versus the way that we approach freestyle with arms being opposite of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Shoulder blades are always moving by each other, just like legs passing by each other.
Right. Think
about when you walk and a leg passes by each other, it rotates your pelvis.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the same thing is happening.
That's probably why everyone's at hips then.
Maybe. I don't think they're entirely wrong, because your hips do weigh a lot, actually, right? They're pretty dense. And so that weight distribution itself would help you rotate. Right. So we'll say your right shoulder blade is contracted.
What do you mean by contracted?
Pressing down towards your butt.
Okay.
That will automatically turn on your obliques, connects your pelvis to your upper body. And as you do that, don't hurt yourself. And as you do that, it causes rotation because the other side is being lengthened, and that lengthening is opposite of the contraction, and so you rotate.
So you're lengthening your opposite oblique. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just inadvertently, like it's not something that you intentionally do, just because your arm is up overhead, basically. It's going to stretch you out.
Okay.
Right. So one of the drills that I think we can help people to understand this with is a really, really simple, basic drill. It's probably a drill that you and I do for somebody's very first lesson if they're not very, we'll say, competent swimmers.
Okay.
Shoulder press, right?
Shoulder pump.
Pump, press, whatever you want to call it. It's the same difference.
Okay. Forever.
It's a great drill to show somebody how sensitive these movements can be, I think. So I'll include this in our little tell and show. Really straightforward drill. Basically, you just kick on your stomach. Both arms are forward. I would say fingertips are somewhere between 6 to 8 inches below the surface. Face should be looking straight down. We want good posture, meaning the straightest spine that you can have. I like to say,
back,
right, there should be,
your pelvis.
we'll say your back should be somewhat convex. The front of you would be somewhat concave.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair? Legs should be pressing inward together to help keep that all working together. Right.
Inner thigh.
Yep, get those inner thighs. And so once you kind of establish your float, then you establish your kick. You just simply extend one arm forward.
With your shoulder blade?
With the shoulder blade. The arm doesn't go straight forward. If you're 6 to 8 inches below the surface with your fingertips, it's moving forward at a diagonal. Right? It's important to understand that. And so as that arm
forward and down.
Forward and down. As that arm is extending, the other arm should be naturally contracting. If it's not, then you contract that side and let the opposite side naturally extend.
Mm-hmm.
And you just do that back and forth. And either one or two things is going to happen. You will rotate a little bit.
Right.
Or you're going to what I would call like a C curve through your side body.
Like a fishtail. Body.
And if you're starting the fishtail, that means your posture isn't what it's supposed to be.
And you're using your back.
You're using your back muscle. Your mid to low back is getting involved, and it should not be. So, tell and show. What do we call this? Shoulder pump?
That's what we've always called.
Yeah. I don't know. Press came to me, and it sounds right. Because it's kind of like a pressing motion for like lifting weights overhead. Kind of.
I guess so. Because I'm assuming I'm pushing something with my shoulder. And I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. The only downside to this drill is it can be slow. And you're not able to breathe unless you take a stroke. So if you need a breath, take the stroke. You can get back to it. Or just throw a snorkel on. You give it a shot with a snorkel. I always tell people, if they're in a workout and they're trying to do one of these like really fundamental drills, throw some fins on, speed it up. Right? Fundamental drills are pretty far from the actual stroke in a way.
Yeah.
Right. So
definitely necessary work though.
Yeah.
And mental understanding needs to be gained.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You got to do that work, but there's also a time crunch involved. It's like, I don't want to be at the pool for 2 hours kicking. All right. Throw some fins on. Don't let the fins be a distraction. You don't need to, focus too much on kicking hard. Just throw them on so that you can make sure that you don't spend too much time doing this. That's all. Straightforward.
Oh, good. How easy.
Easy enough, right? So
this is a little too mindless. That's why I would just get bored doing it.
Okay. I would say, what's another rotation drill that you like?
Windmill.
Ooh, classic.
Even though I hated to actually do it. But that's because my old stroke was so elbow driven and incorrect and tearing my shoulder labrums. I literally couldn't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Windmill drill.
I didn't understand the concept of literally kicking.
Oh, I got you. I was like, what? How is that hard? But I get it. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
I feel like windmill drill is like thinking you're doing a cartwheel with your arms. Or like, wow, my brain or something. Like, yeah, it's like you're doing a cartwheel with your arms. Or you can just picture, if you've seen a windmill in the wild, My client met this morning.
What?
Have you seen a windmill in the wild?
And the answer was,
She chuckled. And then she was like, actually, no. It's the first time she'd realize it. Funny. So you're doing a cartwheel with your arms.
I look at you
Why
calling.
I say that?
It's not a cartwheel at all.
I know. I think I say it because I really want people to understand that I want them to push their arms straight down to the bottom of the pool in order to do this. And so that's the motion you make in a cartwheel.
Got it. I would not understand that because A, I don't think I've ever been able to do a cartwheel ever. B, I can't remember the last time I tried to do a cartwheel.
I really did one at work when there wasn't enough space and I had to like bend my knees. And so it wasn't really a cartwheel. It was like a flip over thing.
After this podcast, can we go in the backyard and practice cartwheels?
Oh my God, no, I'm way too tired.
Will you like spot me and hold my ankles for me and help me come over?
Yeah, my feet are 5'7", 115-pound waif will totally spot her 6'1", 183-pound.
It was 88.
Yeah, that would have been a great call. No, I will watch from the deck.
You'll call 911 when I need help.
Go down hell. Get you some of the momentum disappear.
Does that work?
Yeah. I was just imagining it anyway.
My dumb ass would be able to stop and I would just keep going downhill. So, I like windmill drill as well. Windmill drill I like it because I do like drills that are close to the actual stroke because then it gives some exaggeration, but some context as well.
Yeah.
Where like the shoulder pumps doesn't really give any context. It just demonstrates the ability. And I do think it is very helpful to build that ability. I don't know why, but there are a lot of people out there who can't move shoulder blades very well.
It's like they just haven't ever, and they're almost just rusty and stuck, and you have to loosen them up at first.
Right. So it is actually a nice drill to kind of get that loose. So anyway, going back to windmill drill.
Yeah, you explain it.
This is how I explain it. I tell people you're going to swim freestyle, but you're going to make sure that your face looks straight down, but your chest, stomach, hips, thighs, knees, shins, feet all face one side of the pool. And every time you take a stroke, have to face the other side of the pool.
Oh, interesting.
Fingertips are going to try to touch the ceiling
as
you exit the water.
In my defense, I didn't explain the drill. I go up to a client. So I bring out there being like, listen, you fucking suck. I'm tired. I think you can.
Quiet. So when I ask them to pick the ceiling with their fingertips or touch the ceiling with their fingertips, I also tell them not to let their arm or their hand touch the water as it enters without their hip putting their hand in the water. So there is a stopping point where your arm should stop. It should not go past your shoulder joint very much, but people will put it in places that is not good.
So like you're playing air guitar.
Right. So,
or a real guitar.
There you go.
Ooh, I shouldn't do that.
So, with windmill drill, it forces a lot of balance and it shows you your balance issues for sure. And so I also like the drill because we can add variation to it, really simple variation that makes it way harder. Kickboard between the legs and a kickboard, not a pool buoy. Oh, that was nice. That was like we planned that. Because I like a kickboard because it's not meant to be used this way. And so it does not play nicely and you have to control it with your core.
It's really hard.
So once you do couple rounds, couple 25s of windmill drill with a kickboard, next step, windmill drill with a kickboard with a 3-second pause on your side.
Side plank.
Because basically, as your momentum decreases, your balance becomes more challenging and you have to learn to adjust that balance. And then after you mastered 3 seconds, you go to 5 seconds. And after you mastered 5 seconds, you go to 10 seconds. And after you mastered 10 seconds, you go to 15 seconds. That's like 2 to 3 strokes per length. And you're just on your side.
What position is my recovering arm in?
It's just kind of resting on your side.
Okay.
Just like as if you were doing kick on your side.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's funny. but it's super hard. At 15 seconds, you're basically like making these little micro adjustments through your pelvis.
And the board is still moving in the water
Uh-huh.
to imbalance you.
Uh-huh. Not easy.
No.
Try 3 seconds though. 3 seconds will change your life. You'll learn so much from doing 3 seconds of no propulsion and just feeling yourself lose your balance.
Mm-hmm.
So, your kick has some relevance to rotation as well. I would say one of the things that can be bad with kick and rotation is often people use their legs to help them rotate, because legs are stronger than arms. So people use them and they do like one really big hard kick to help their body turn over. Some people use like a big splaying motion, basically. And that's why we want to keep those bongos in mind. Mine was bongos. Remember our kicking thoughts that we wanted people to have last time?
Be a chihuahua?
Be a chihuahua or a Pomeranian. That's why we want those small kicks, right? We don't cause any drag, but also they're not supposed to be generating that much force that would rotate your body. Mm-hmm. They do kind of work like a ballast, right? In that you put a leg all the way over, you will start to rotate, but that does take time to have that balance shift. Right?
I will tell people sometimes his arms are going way too quickly and messing everything up to fit their movement of their catch, push, and finish in with their hip rotation. As you need to slow those down to match your hip rotation.
Perfect, right? It goes exactly with what I was saying, that cadence is determined by hip rotation, not by arms, right? I was doing kayak drill with my first client this morning, and it was her first time doing kayak drill. We're not going to talk about kayak drill. We've already talked about enough drills today. Chill out. Mm-hmm. So I asked her to try to move her arms through her core rotating. So
you mean by her core rotating?
Yeah. Well, through it too. She's using her core. During kayak drill, she's using her core. She's in posture. She's got good posture. She's going to use her core. But she was very clearly using her arms to do everything, and the core was trying to keep up. Yeah. And it should almost be opposite. Yep. Right? So
it should be opposite.
I agree. I don't know.
I mean, you need to think that your trunk is
still working together. I agree. You should be thinking that way. So if your legs are splaying, or if you feel like you have a really big kick, you might be using your kick to help you rotate.
An alligator mouth.
Almost like a scissor kick.
Right.
Right. You might be using it to help you rotate, which is detrimental to the rest of your swimming. The goal of swimming, or the priority of swimming, is not actually rotation.
And that's why I think you want to be a ballerina. Nice and tight. I've been using that lately. I'm brain dead today. We need to be done.
What's going on today that you're so brain dead?
I'm exhausted. I haven't eaten anything. I did 4 lessons this morning that I wouldn't normally have any lessons. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I'm failing you.
You're not failing me. You're just tired. That's all.
Yeah. Can't do it. Need a bagel. Don't even get a bagel today. That's okay. I'll make it.
You'll be okay. I'll take care of you after you let me do some cartwheels in the backyard.
You're welcome. I mean, sure. Grassy. Mush. It's mush up there.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about rotation. There's not much more to talk about. Oh, there is one more thing to talk about rotation.
Okay.
You have to rotate before you turn your head to breathe.
What has to rotate before you turn?
Your body. The body must rotate before you turn your head to breathe. This is a very important part of rotation. And going back to what I said earlier on, we have to rotate to a minimum of 45 degrees in freestyle so that we can
breathe.
Exactly. So that's kind of an important part of this rotation thing in freestyle. Don't turn your head to try to get your face out of the water and then expect your body to follow. Yeah. No, that doesn't work. You have to rotate your body first, and then you have to turn your head.
Otherwise, your body will go where you're looking.
Or your body just will stay flat and you're going to pick your head up. Yeah, you're just going to pick your head up, if anything. And the last little bit, which is going to probably, people are going to like, what are they even talking about? Is a feather in your stroke.
Oh, that
Does promote better rotation.
I honestly believe if you've never had an art class, you can't connect with this word. I can't connect with this word in any way, shape, or form. It's a bird feather to me. Not what you're talking about. And yet every person I say it to gets it. And I'm
No.
like, how do I not get it? It makes
I
me
don't
feel
know.
so dumb.
I don't know.
I've never heard this term in the way that you're about to use it. And yet, when I'm telling it to like a 10-year-old, they go, oh. And I'm like, yeah, why does that make sense to you? Anyway, continue.
It's a paddle sport term as well, not just an art term.
Oh, I don't think I even knew that.
Just like catch is a paddle sport term, not originally
Paddle
a
sport.
swimming term,
I know that.
right? Well, it's the same concepts. And that's why it's so kind of silly that we don't talk that much about a feathering motion in swimming, even though we are like obsessed with the catch. Well, the catch is the exact opposite of the feather. If you don't feather, if you don't feather as your arm is exiting the water.
Maybe you explain what that means first.
I will in a second. Let me finish my thought.
Okay.
If you don't feather when your arm is exiting the water, your hand ends up turning in towards your thigh. And so then you're slicing the water for those last couple of inches out of the water.
Flipping through, not propelling.
In
Moving or propelling yourself.
Swimming is absolutely a sport of centimeters, meaning if I can gain a couple more centimeters or an inch of propulsion, I'm going to be better for it.
Yep.
And not only that, it does help cause tension through your body the entire time that you're swimming, just like as if you're walking on land, your body always has tension through it, right? I think for a lot of people, when they get into the water, they lose that sense of tension and they become neuter, kind of, right? Well, part of it's because they're not applying force through their limbs to then have that force be applied through their core. So feathering does help promote that.
And that is what?
A feathering motion. I have two visuals that I want to share with people. First, if you've ever ice skated, the motion that your legs make to push yourself forward is back and out. That is a feathering motion.
Like out away from your spine.
Yeah. Right? So picture that. That is a feathering motion. Another really obvious one is if you've ever been on a stand-up paddleboard, what would you do with the oar when you were exiting the water? You certainly don't turn it sideways and lift it as high as you possibly can out of the water.
Oh, it's so aggressive.
Right?
I'm mad.
You press it slightly away with a slight curve and it breaks the surface and goes right where you want it to. It's a feathering motion. So we'll talk more about feathering on another podcast. I don't want to get into that now. I want to talk about rotation. But I do want to say that feathering does help with rotation. Only because if you don't feather, your arm gets too close to your body and causes you to rotate more than you want to usually. Or your arm goes behind you and causes even more problems. It could hurt you for sure, or it could just be a lot of, I mean, I've seen people, and I know you have too, rotate past 90 degrees, where it's like basically on their back, right? Just to get that breath. Fine for a beginner. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. You want to refine that down to 90, and then once you get to 90, find your way to 45.
Yeah, you will eventually hurt yourself doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no way you could swim open water in an ocean that way.
No.
No way. Oh, that's I think one of the finer points that we heard from our Bahamas swim camp when we were in the Atlantic and we were swimming along the shore.
That's the beach side?
Yep.
Along the shore. Got the context. What were you saying?
Everyone had recognized that if they over-rotated to like help with the breath, they lost their balance immediately just because there was so much tossle. That's a good word. I was not going to say that. It's a better word than I was going to use.
I mean, tousled by the waves. Tousled and tuffled.
Yeah. You're going to do like a jostled and tousled, I don't know, poem?
No, my brain is mushed.
Okay. All right. Any final thoughts with your mushy brain? Since you're mush and I get it. It's time to be done. No? Okay. So
There's nothing.
here's what I would like to leave everyone with. Next time you go swim, just recognize where your rotation's coming from. How much are you rotating? And is it happening before you turn your head to breathe?
I would say notice for these things.
What did I say? I don't even know.
No,
what I
you
said.
just did recognize. And
Notice it.
yeah, I would just feel like pay attention to what you're doing and see what you're doing first. Get the information first before you make the change.
Don't make blind changes. That's a bad idea.
Mhm.
All right. Until next time.
Oh boy.
You all right?
Yeah, I said over 10 minutes ago that my brain was mush and I was done.
It was 10 minutes ago. Just the camera.
28. 10 minutes ago.